So, you have a data sheet here. This data sheet again like a PDF, you can enlarge it, and all the details regarding what are the sizes, seen that, no? What all you can do with it are there, and this is what I wanted to tell you in the earlier when it is not there. This here you can probably download a full-fledged 3D model which is compatible with most Autodesk products, most McNeil products, similarly Dassault and Siemens, SolidEdge, SolidWorks, Rhino, and a large number of these things understand these models. I do not have a very proper program which I can use to open it, hence I cannot open it. Now you see here, important thing about pricing, about life cycle information is also given here, saying how long will they maintain it in their data sheet. I will now close here. I will see if I can go to other manufacturers. You see here we have large number of sizes, you can shop by size. Then there are a lot of outdoor catalogs. So, if you go for these outdoor enclosures, you have, I will see whether I can open one of these things and see if it still works. Yeah, it is trying to download the engineering drawing. So, any detail you want is already there, and then you see here, while this is listed automatically here, you still need to negotiate. Once you negotiate, you have this beautiful thing here. Then there are something related to the type of models you have. So, I do not know, I am not familiar with this STEP format. I expect it is something which most 3D programs will open it automatically. It may be a little like the IGS. And then you see material is given here, something equally related to is saying what are all the materials they use for the manufacturing. This is where, since we are not experts in metallurgy, or we are not experts in application of particular fabrication process with the known metallurgy, we can always look up their thing here. Again, sorry for this thing, you see here most of the properties are given here. It is a little difficult for us to interpret this information without the proper understanding about it. But you see here a lot of it now, including basic yield strength, okay, then various types of elongation, and then very important thing here is this thermal conductivity and Q, the heat holding capacity, are all mentioned here. So, if you have this, you can now select the type of material you like to use and what you want to do with it, and for what is the application has to be done, and so on. So, here basically it looks like this is an aluminum case, but has traces of the silicon and large amount of silicon composition. So, it is a aluminum silicon case which will make this very suitable for our application. So, it is not for us to copy or anything, it is for us to understand how it is. So, as we go on, see here beautiful these catalogs, this is where the word, when I say standard, you see in here very important thing is waterproof, dust right are used to describe electrical this. Unfortunately, these terms are ambiguous. If the enclosure is merely rainproof or is fully submersible, similarly, a set of standards, the national electrical manufacturers, I told you in the earlier thing, NEMA, gives these particular things. Here saying NEMA 1, 2, 3, 4 and then X and so on. A little related to this is the IP classification, saying the index of protection classes meant for other type of equipment where you have a 2 and 3 number system. All of us are familiar with probably the IP55, which is commonly used, and then we have IP56, IP66 and finally IP67. If you go through this in detail, you will notice that it is not as simple as just trying to buy small box. You have seen this, no? If I suggest you read, go to their this website and find out to see what is there are IP number designations. The smallest is open chassis equipment. Sometimes if you make a power supply and those things, if you remember in the beginning I showed you one panel building. So you have panels in which these equipments are all mounted. The outside big enclosure is fully protected. So in this case, generally IP20, IP10, all these things mean that it is a box which is generally protected. It is open, but is expected to be used one more time in another equipment. So most of the small sub-assemblies and all including that PCBs and all what you are talking about are probably taken from here. Further, if you go down, NEMA to this, the cross verification has been given here. NEMA 46 correspond to 55. 55 is not actually fully submersible equipment. The only submersible equipment are probably 66P here in the IP66 and so on. You need to take a stand on this here, saying even if you are to make something a few numbers of, would you like to go here or would you like to make your own enclosure? So my own personal call in this, it is better that we concentrate on the electronics and the functionality and not so much on the enclosure design. So in this particular lecture series is how to make equipment design, that is packaging of electronic equipment at a system level. I feel you should study this in detail. And give an example is one of our students has made the traditional what do you call colored fountains. Here it is called a musical fountain. So needn't have to go and search much for it. The actual basic, the fountain parts and all have been installed by somebody who is good at handling all the plumbing and things. But the control, the valves, the whole electronics, his first of samples were made using these things. Again, once again, that lights and all are supplied by a supplier. Lights have a different way of dealing with it. But you see any light, obviously you have something on which the light comes out from. Then you have something for alignment. So there is a case around it. And then there is somewhere you need to give power to it. And then whole thing has to go and match with the fountain part of it. The lights are probably again done by another supplier. The plumbing and thing has been done, but the full control of how to activate these various things, how they are cabled. Some of them are directly submerged equipment just sitting under the water level. It's not a full-fledged what you call, I wouldn't call it a swimming pool, but it is a harsh environment. You have large pool in which only the shower heads and the nozzles come out of the water. Remaining just underneath that you have all these sophisticated sealed equipment going underneath. And what cannot be kept there, it is still taken out and then kept in a mildly harsh equipment. So, if you have to have a jacuzzi in your house, I do not know how they pronounce it, put up with my accent. I do not know whether it calls a jacuzzi or whatever it is. If you have a jacuzzi at home, you won't want to be electrocuted, but still it has so many what you call valves which you need to operate. There is a button which increases or decreases the temperature, and there are buttons which start the waves or the froth, and then there is a button which I expect it does drains, and I do not know what all are there. One of the first thing you will notice is it is not operated electrically. The one you press there often is just a air or hydraulic hose which you, as a button you press, and then in the wall you have a contactor which is operated by this connecting what you call inert fluid. Sometimes it is air, sometimes it is a liquid. But what you say there are beautiful colored knobs and often color changing and all that. No, that small part of it which is required there is generally low voltage and still has sealed various types of connectors and so on in that. The main thing which operates probably you require 6 to around 10 kilowatts heaters inside, and then you need pumps which are probably of the order of 2 to 3 horsepower, and then you need some frothing swirlers and all that. All of it is still controlled using the small knobs which you press, which are controlled, put in a panel in the wall which is controlled through pipes, and through the pipes either you have a low voltage connection or you have a simple air or water connection. So, you see this NEMA rating and all that, you will see that we have a very large number of data which is available. Then I suggest that one needs to read about the progress of how electronics enclosures came to be. Seen that, no? This is one of the pictures I was trying to show here in all that you can think of, somebody has thought for you. And secondly, while some of these items are listed in the catalog, they are there in their blog and all that, they may or may not be available in the quantities you want. Sometimes the minimum order quantity will run into a few hundreds and expensive. Sometimes the maximum order quantity which they commit and that smooth flow of the items in the pipeline cannot be guaranteed. If you want, let us say every month you want say some 2000 of them, it needs negotiation. Somebody has to sit, negotiate and see the various terms, and then do they expect it to stock. And another ultimate thing that can happen is, will it continue to be production for your product life cycle. Your product life cycle you may be estimating around 10 years, and then they say right now we are coming out with a new series or new technique. So, we cannot guarantee. If you want, why do not you buy up whatever stock you require for your next few years. That is where we probably need to look at, can we have an alternate source of all these equipments here. You see here. So many of these large number of, you have seen this, no? This is of course a small thing about maybe a little bit of, I won't say sell, a bit of making information about their products. Now you see here we have the beauty of polycarbonate and fiberglass. Loosely, no, both fiberglass is good in its own way, and then we have polycarbonate also. Where do we need to do what? So polycarbonate has certain advantages. One of them is tough, but it has its own limitations, meaning while you can injection mold it and all, in some conditions it requires additional control on the thicknesses, meaning from the injection point to various vent points and the way the material spreads. Often these injection machines use what is called a submarine gate, submarine gate. So, in submarine gate the material comes and comes out, and then finally when you want to take it off, a small pip continues to remain, and wherever the dies close we may end up with flash. So, location of the flash, location of these pips all still happen to have still controls. In contrast to this, we have this fiberglass which is good. Anything you want can probably you can make. So, they have given all this stuff easier and so on and all that. Fiberglass leads to true to shape with mold variability, retain rigidity and so on and so on. No? So many other processes are there. While we take it very easy saying, oh, it is a matter, everything is done. Not long ago, only around 50 years back, if you remember, all our automobile bumpers were made with heavy metal, and in fact chrome bumper for a car was a matter of honor, saying there is so much of chrome on the car. Then over the years they found out that having a chrome bumper really does not help. I do not know, I am not an automobile person, but kindly put up with my value judgment, saying eventually everything now has been replaced with glass filled nylon or some new type of bumpers which have fantastic capability to absorb impacts. So, if the bumper you by some accident or I will say I should not use any religious thing, by some mishap you get into a crash, a lot of the impact is absorbed by the front plastic materials. And then the beauty of this is now all type of sensors, cameras, everything can come built into the plastic impact taking devices. Next time you have a chance, you go through various what do you call, I expect information sources and check how things have improved. Same thing has also happened a little in our electronic enclosures. So, whenever we have the corners of any thing, I will give you an example of my mobile. You have these corners, it is just rounded, but also it is made with a special material which ensures that some small bumps it can take. And if we can go to our these enclosures, you will see here that most of the things what you can think of, they seem to be about the same among all the manufacturers. So, at this point now I will see if I can open one of these PDS drawings. See here, we would not have thought of too much of this detail, but several things which I have been talking of earlier are included in this. These are inches, so I expect this whole thing is of the order of about an inch, okay, 3/4 of an inch. But to make it look sleek, you have seen that about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom a bulge has been given. It is not exactly in the middle, it is counterintuitive. You can say if you can put it in the middle, we could have made two identical parts, even that variety is available. But in this case they have tried to include, they have made this bulge a little at the bottom because hardware related to joining these 2 points together. You see here we have 4 fasteners, and then there is a top and bottom which will get fixed through the fasteners, and then there is a place here for fixing your printed wiring board with all the circuitry. So, all you need to do is probably look at the catalog and then see which one of them is suitable. So, this is a, as I said, no, 3/4 inch, and this across is a 2.5 inch wide what do you call enclosure, and length is around 4 inches. So, this is typically a small thing which you can use for any of these small enclosures. You see, one more thing is we have a 202 and 203. So, we have infrared and transparent and red panels which can be used for intercommunication. In case you want to make, let us say, 2 of the devices talk to each other, you can buy one of these things, and then you are in, I will say, you are ready to manufacture things. The absolute reality of the material is, again, see here we have any detail you can think of is probably there, okay, including non-skid feet, and you can keep on building on these enclosures as you like. So, I will take one of the things which it is possible for you. In this watertight handheld key, I am not able to understand what FOB means. As we go along, we will understand what it is. So, you see here now, anything you can think of, somebody has already thought about saying we make a small enclosure. So, good example I can think of is, probably I am carrying it, yes, my car keys are with me. So, if you are to make some new concept for your car, you have seen this, okay. I am not very sure if actually this company themselves have made this. I do not think this company, and in fact this is a not an original remote control for my car. All of these are available. Probably if the remote control comes with the car, but then you are trying to make some other device at home, including a remote to find where you have lost your remote, or a really universal remote which learns from every remote you have in the house, by which you can control maybe the blinds or shades, and then you can control probably your audio system, or in my case I wish I found a remote which can control the gain of my hearing aid all at one go. Not yet made, it is just a dream, I am sure it can be made. So, you see, things like this you can always go and then try to make use of these various types of enclosures and get your first button ready. So, you see here I will just try to make it a little bigger, and you can see the features they have listed here. Aha, very interesting thing which we are looking for all along. First thing is ergonomic design. So, ergonomic design, obviously you know that how easy it is used, but then opposite also, no, how some of them should not be done, otherwise the whole concept of a pocket call would not have come. You put it in your pocket and unwittingly some door should not be opened. So, various types of what do you call features built into it, something number of buttons. Another you have seen here, we have this coin cells. So, coin cell is something generally it is it looks a little like your coin. So generally the combination is they'll put the height and the diameter to describe those things. So 1020, I'm sorry, 2005 and 2010 refer to diameter. They are all available up to 25 mm into 9 mm and so on. And then extreme right, you have the pen torch cells. You have the 4A, AAA, AA, and then you have half AA, 3/4 AA, and all sorts of combinations. And you see here something which I enjoy saying button membrane seals the enclosure. What you see here is they may not be discrete buttons. This whole thing may be a silicone pad on which the buttons stick out. And then you see here a small feature also is given, so that in the darkness I can see which is the front, which is the back, and then I can also figure out which one to press, like this. And after putting that membrane underneath, and then if there is a lip underneath this groove and it is assembled and pressed together, well, it is not a fully submersible equipment, it is halfway through. They have given IP66. IP66 doesn't mean permanently you need it underwater, but accidentally should it fall down a model, what do you call, a pool or a puddle in water, nothing will happen. So advantage for us is, you see here we have colors and we have printing. They will give you anything you want. This is where I keep coming back saying, obviously you have desktop enclosures, you have water type key what do you call, boxes, then a wall mount gang box, meaning you have a lot of things which you try to keep on the wall, and slowly we are coming into water type hinged enclosures. Advantage of a watertight hinge enclosure is you put it on the wall and then you can open the cover, and then you see here it has got a glass enclosure, glass thing. So you can still continue to have some indications and some type, and then full access to various things. You see here even very, very interesting, obviously things, oh, I wish I made it type of things. This of course only a transportation case. This I will show you the sloping enclosure from other manufacturers. Then something which is very, very interesting is a large number of accessories. How do you mount things, and then can you have an access to an access card here, and so on. This Eastern radio, out of interest for the local suppliers, I thought I'd like to. This is a supplier who supplies these things in India. I don't need to try that first time, you remember. I gave you an exercise. Why don't you make a handheld meter? Start a cardboard box, cut it, and then try to put things and so on. Why make it? You need to know what is the total pack available and all that. If you can go through the standard enclosure catalogs, you will see that miraculously these things seem to fit your requirements. Seen that? So it's good. 75 mm is about this much, 3 digits wide. This is 3 inches, otherwise 75 millimeters. So conveniently it can be held here nicely, and then you see the length is about 147. That's around 5 inches long. So something which neatly sits, and then you also have a 1 1/4 inch thick 32 mm height, This is exactly what we wanted. Fine, I mean life can't be better than this. You see here something else? It has a beautiful place for putting your power supply. So depending on what you'd like to do, it's possible for you to power it up using perhaps two AA cells, and then probably you can even make them rechargeable if you have necessary connectors and all. All that it needs now is a little bit of thought on where will you mount any of these your necessary hardware.